With IRN.
America's Radio.
WNN with more of what you need to know. Don't miss Barry's Supplement Hour. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 11 a.m. and Tuesdays at noon on South Florida's Health and Wealth Network, AM 1470, WNN. Here's some great news from Tom Trento, host of the daily WNN Trento Vision Show. Due to the unparalleled success of the Trento Vision Show, you now have an amazing opportunity to advertise on the Trento Vision Show. If you want more information about this excellent opportunity for your business, please contact Tom Trento at 561-319-5533. Or you can email him, tom@trentovision.tv. The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to Trento Vision, where bad ideas get pulverized and the truth will set you free. Trento Vision is hosted by Tom Trento. Tom can be reached at 561-319-5533 or tom@trentovision.tv. Listen and watch every weekday from 3 to 6 p.m. on AM 1470 WNN and trentovision.tv. Now, let's get a peek at Tom's view of the world. Here's Tom Trento.
Yeah, we have it up here.
The soap?
Yeah.
The clean your dishes really fast.
You say this stuff really works, huh?
Dishes out of the dishwasher, they aren't really clean. Can you see film on
Watch
your
the
glassware? You probably think it's your dishwasher, but it's not. It's your detergent. Really Clean is a dishwasher detergent booster, and it really works. Just add a Really Clean tablet along with your favorite detergent. Really Clean tablets are not sold in stores. Order them at reallycleandishes.com. That's reallycleandishes.com.
We don't want to sell them in stores. I think it worked. Well, I know it worked for me, but I'm going to give it graduated tests. You know, dirtier and dirtier and nastier.
Double-blind test.
I'm going to bake something and put like all the forks and knives in the bake thing and let it sit outside in the sun after it's been baked.
You're going to nuke it.
I'm going to do one of those kind of deals and see what happens.
Ew.
We'll really put it through the ringer here on TrentoVision.tv. Hello, everybody.
Do it with your iPhone, record it, and say, listen, this is what I did. I'm going to throw this. All right, this is a real-life thing. I'm going to throw this in here just like this. And 30 minutes later, pop it back out with your iPhone and show it, and we'll play it.
Remember what
shows what he knows about how dishwashers work, that he thinks it's done in 30 minutes.
It's a little long. Remember what Rush did for Snapple. Remember what Rush did for Snapple? We will do for Really Clean. You know, everybody will be using Really Clean, but don't eat them. They're not for human consumption, but the show is for human consumption at 8 minutes. 8 minutes past 5 o'clock on the east coast of Florida, where it is 74 degrees inside. I'm guessing 77 as the sun starts to travel to the west.
No.
And set.
It is 79.
Oh,
whoa. The warm ocean breeze.
It's still 79.
The warm ocean breeze.
On January 3rd, 1984.
The ocean breeze, which is not too far, maybe a half a mile from here.
1984.
Half a mile from here, the ocean breeze is licking the palms and the palmettos and the hibiscus on a wonderful
Hey, Robert.
Thursday.
It's 1984.
Oh. How are the cars today, Michael?
I was zoned out for a second. Why? It sounds all NPR in here.
NPR. And Schweddy. Mr. Schweddy, remember?
I'm going to assume that the traffic is still...
Yeah, people are really stupid out there today.
Apparently.
Well, you got to put your traffic Mozart deal up. You got to do two things at once. You've got to do the graphics, and you've got to do the articulate.
I've got an inner dialogue going on that I'm just not...
Okay.
I'm doing like 8 things right now.
It's cool. We're with it.
No, the traffic. What time is it? It's 5 o'clock, so there's going to be 5 o'clock traffic.
It's 5 o'clock traffic.
It is going with the flow.
Going with the flow.
It's going with the flow. Here at Trento Vision.
And I can confirm that the people are really stupid out there.
You were out on the road recently.
They're really stupid today for some reason.
Yeah.
Stupid, or just silly stupid?
Stupid is as stupid does
just
stupid.
Making, making left
blinkers,
left blinkers, and making right turns into right-hand lanes, and just like just la 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 out there driving.
That's because they're all listening, and they're
I think they're still buzzed for New Year's.
Well, they're listening to us, and they're going, I can't believe they just said that. Or, oh man, what a good point. You can listen to us, but don't be sidetracked or distracted while you're driving, and certainly don't text your friends. Or you can do the text with, if you have Siri on your 4S iPhones like we do, where you can say, please text Tom, and you can do it that way so you don't have to take your eyes off the road. But do not take your eyes off the road. Texting and driving is very dangerous.
Yes. Don't text and drive. Don't drink and drive.
And don't play Angry Birds while you're driving either.
Don't put your mascara on while you're driving.
None of that stuff. Drive safely.
Anyway.
Because,
but if you don't drive safely and you get into trouble, you can call Peter Feynman.
Yes, you can at Feynman Law, FeynmanLaw.com.
FeaMan.
FeynmanLaw.com. Peter Feynman is a phenomenal. We just had a great attorney on who's a First Amendment guy. Deals with federal cases.
Yeah.
Peter Feynman deals with business cases. He's a litigator. He can help put anything together on the business end. He doesn't do criminal law per se, but he will refer if you need something like that, and he can be one of the consultants on the case because he knows all the judges all over the place.
Right.
And one of the reasons he does is because he is the what? He's elected as the what?
He is the state committee man.
National
the Republican Party.
He's the national committee man from the state of Florida to the Republican Party.
Okay. I was close in articulating
in Washington, D.C. I'm going to tease one show that we're going to do in April. We're going to do a show on the inauguration of George Washington.
Yes.
And what part of Washington, D.C. was the inauguration of Washington held in? I'm asking CJ.
That's a trick question. There was no Washington, D.C.
There was no Washington, D.C. Oh, it was invisible?
When he was inaugurated.
Where was he inaugurated then?
He was inaugurated somewhere else.
Quebec. He was inaugurated in Quebec.
When he asked me that yesterday, I guessed Philadelphia.
I was going to guess New York.
You'd have guessed right.
You would have guessed right.
Because it wasn't a guess, because I actually did know that.
Reading Civil War stuff. Wasn't he in the Civil War? He was in one of those wars.
No, that was a different war.
Oh, all these wars, man. Well, that's why we're here. We do national security radio, and we know all these wars.
And what did you do immediately after you got inaugurated, Tom?
That's the show in April. Stay tuned in April. We'll tell you all about that. It's really...
Well, it's quite fascinating.
It's very fascinating. But who are we? Tom Trento, CJ, Mark, Mike. We are the visible components of a group called the United West. We're the Trento Vision Communications team here. The United West is a educational organization doing work in the area of counterterrorism, in particular Islamic jihadi terrorism, Muslim terrorists. Not every Muslim is a terrorist, but
most terrorists are Muslims.
But all terrorists are Muslims, except for Tim
McVeigh,
right? Who had some dealings with Islamic jihadis. Not too many people know about that. But we deal with this sort of stuff, and we look at what's the trends that are going on in the United States of America to make you aware of that as you have your head buried in the sand, because this is tough stuff to listen to. And we also look at the trends around the globe, in particular in the Middle East, because that's where the explosions are going to come from. We have the red line as professed by the Prime Minister of Israel coming upon us pretty quickly. He said by April, maybe May the latest. Remember the little bomb he drew?
Yep.
The little thing he had at the United Nations? Yeah, man. He says it's going to be a red line. Remember, does anybody remember what the red line was for them?
What, the spring you're talking about, or the 90%?
Yeah, he said April to May in there, but what did he say the trigger is for Israel's red line, where they will do something to stop the nuclear capability?
Well, I think they already reached that.
No, he had a red line of level of production of the.
No, I don't remember the
grade of the uranium up to 90%. They have so many spies in Iran. Right. They know exactly what's going on. They have the best intelligence in the world.
Except that there's a bunch of plutonium missing right now.
Yeah.
Well, that's just plutonium, 20 pounds, 200 pounds, here, there, who cares? But if this uranium-239 gets processed to weapons grade, 90% or so, guys, we got to do something about this. Now, we're here to keep track of that. And, the last thing in the world anyone wants is a nuclear confrontation. So there may have to be a preemptive strike by Israel and its allies. Let's name all its allies. The Philippines.
9 countries.
Yeah, the Philippines.
Canada.
Micronesia.
Nobody in Europe. Nobody in Europe.
What a battle force of allies. Well, we'll send the Micronesian Navy into the Straits of Hormuz. So Israel's standing alone, essentially. And the United States will do as little as possible. If
the United States will watch Israel take the hit.
Yep. So we're gonna bring all that information. But what we've been doing over the past few days since Christmas time, December 25th, we've been taking a look at American history and then drawing parallels on unique dates. We looked at the 25th and 26th of December, which was 236 years ago. Was the attack, George Washington's crossing of the Delaware River. For all of you people in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, you know the Delaware River and the Delaware Water Gap very well. I grew up in New Jersey. I know the Delaware Water Gap. It's like a big resort kind of vacation place, and you go to the Water Gap. What exit? I don't know for the Delaware Water Gap. Way down south there. But it's a river that separates Pennsylvania and New Jersey. And on December 25, 26, George Washington had to go crunch the Hessians, the special forces under the command of the British Army, who were in Trento, New Jersey. They were in Trento, New Jersey. Yes. And GW had a couple thousand troops, about 1,000 or 1,100 of them were like kids, essentially. Militia. He only had a few regular soldiers. And it was over. It was fait accompli. This was the Waterloo, if you will, for the United States fight Revolutionary War against the British. But through Thomas Paine's motivation and Washington's leadership and the bravery of those men on that day, December 26th, 1776. Yeah, 1776. The Americans prevailed, and here we are today as a result of that. Then the other day, on the 1st of January, 1st, 2nd, we spoke. Today's the 3rd. We spoke about another celebration, the sesquicentennial celebration of the sesquicentennial celebration. We spoke about we're not going to do Marcy right now. It's too good. We're going to save him for tomorrow. We spoke about the very controversial, but you don't know it's controversial until you get into it, Emancipation Proclamation. And we said, by way of review, at 18 minutes past 5 o'clock in Florida, on WNN 1470, if you're driving in your car, be sure to tune in with iHeartRadio. That's very helpful to listen to what we're all about when you leave your automobile. We said that on the 1st of January, 150 years ago, President Lincoln implemented, 100 days after he wrote the Emancipation, he implemented it on January 1st, and that it was kind of a phony baloney document. Why?
It was a politically slick move.
Yeah, what was the weird part about it?
Well,
he freed all the slaves in the Confederacy in the South, who he had no control over, but did not free the slaves in the North. which he had all the control over.
I free all you people that I have no control over, you know.
But I'm not going to free all you people who have control over.
Hey, George, what about us over here?
on the good side of the line.
New York and New Jersey. Quiet. I'm doing something here. No, not George. Abraham. Abraham. Yeah.
Abe. Yeah.
So we saw a little inconsistency, not just us, in that day 150 years ago.
And the ones who opposed that emancipation were the Democrat Copperheads.
Tell them about them, yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about the Copperheads.
Well, they're the modern day. All their ideology, everything that they believed in back then, they're completely. We don't want war. We want to save the Union. Oh, everybody save the Union.
This is a group of Democrats, same Democratic Party as today.
Same exact Democrat Party as today.
The war's going on, and the Civil War was going on, right?
The Civil War was gearing up, ramping up. Okay, and there's a big
protest
of you can't free slaves because the slaves are actually being treated okay down there in the South. They're under control. They have freedoms. They have all this. We can't free them because if we free them, it's going to split the nation. If we split the nation, it's going to cause a big war. And so we got to keep slavery, in power there. So don't free the slaves, and don't cause any disruption because we can't have that because we're Democrats. We love you.
So they were appeasing the doctrine of slavery, saying,
"Oh yeah,
leave it in place, let it sit there. It's best for the unity of the country." And why were they called Copperheads?
Well, they were called Copperheads to relate them to snakes in the grass, is what they were, and because what they were saying and what they were promoting was completely on the slave owner side. That they were totally getting the money from the slave owners, and they were being paid off by the slave lobby, if you will.
Slave lobby, yeah.
To promote slavery, and that's what they were, and they still do it today.
Also as being best for the slaves themselves.
And that
not just for the country, but best for the slaves themselves.
So what's the analogy to today? What the Democrats today that would be Copperheads are doing what? That's a comparison.
Oh, well, the government will take care of you. We're the ones who supply you with everything. We care for you so much. You should be enslaved to us. You should elect us, and we'll give you money. And we'll give you...
Tea Party, the conservatives are the Union Army, in a sense, in this analogy.
Right.
Leave everything alone, let it stay, let the government take over, and everybody will be nice.
Right.
1863, January 1st, that's where we are, folks, and we are going to... We read a little bit of the Emancipation Proclamation. It's not a very long document, but we read that... on January 1st of 1863, President Abraham Lincoln said that all... I'm going to read this without laughing. I'm picturing Napoleon with his hand like this, like a wacky Napoleon. All persons held as slaves within the state or states designated, or any part of a designated state, the people whereof shall then be in rebellion against the United States. That means... all the people in the rebellious states, in the Confederacy, as Marx said, shall be thenceforth and forever free. Shall be forever free. I'm freeing everybody that I can't free. The executive government of the United States, including the military and naval authority thereof, will recognize and maintain the freedom of these people that are in the South, and will do no act or acts to repress any such persons. So don't get in the way of them keeping their freedom. Let them get their freedom, basically. All right, now the next part. That the executive will, on the first day of January aforesaid, by proclamation, designate the states and parts of states, if any, in which the people thereof respectively, they always wrote all these long sentences with all these phrases in them, shall then be in rebellion against the United States, and the fact that any state or the people thereof shall on that day be in good faith represented in the Congress of the United States, you guys are going to have to interpret this, by members chosen thereto. Most people in the world have never read this, I guarantee you. Chosen thereto at elections wherein a majority of the qualified voters of such state shall have participated, shall, in the absence of strong countervailing testimony, this is one sentence, be deemed conclusive evidence that such state and the people thereof are not then in rebellion of the United States of America.
He says if you agree with my proclamation, then you're not in rebellion against the United States of America. But if you disagree with my proclamation, then you are in rebellion against America, and you're subject to war.
Yep.
In essence.
That's exactly what he's saying in all those long words. You should have been their speech writer, their editor here. Could have made this thing of 4 sentences. Now, therefore, I, Abraham Lincoln, President of the United States, by the virtue of power vested in me as Commander-in-Chief of the as Commander-in-Chief.
Yeah.
Oh,
it was actually, in essence, an executive order.
It was, because he suspended habeas corpus after he issued it. Yeah.
Old Abe bypassed Congress on this one. Interesting.
Bypassed Congress, everything.
Now, why would he do that?
Because the country was severely. Now, you're talking about disagreements between parties. Okay, I mean they were actually fist fights. I mean literally fist fights on the Senate floor. Concerning this issue. I mean they were severely split. So much so that they had a war over it. And
so if he went to Congress, if Abe Lincoln went to Congress, I'm going to free the slaves. They're going to go, get the hell out of here, man! Are you crazy?
You're right.
Right. So the guy had some cojones to say, I'm moving ahead with this. I am moving ahead with this deal, and whatever I got to do to make it happen. Now you look at people go, yes, just like Barack Obama. Oh, that's why he's having executive orders and passing everything. Only problem is one was building the country up.
The other guy's tearing it down.
I, therefore, Abraham Lincoln, President of the United States, by virtue of the power vested in me as Commander-in-Chief of the Army, of the Navy of the United States, in time of actual armed rebellion against the authority and government of the United States, and as a fit and necessary war measure for suppressing said rebellion, pesky little Southerners, they're still fighting the war, many of these guys in the South,
Right.
Do on this first day of January, 1863, in the year of our Lord 1863, and in accordance with my purpose, so too do publicly proclaim for the full period of 100 days. What was that all about, CJ?
100 days. Give everybody time to get used to the news.
He told everybody, I'm going to do this January 1st.
He said
on September 22nd, 1862.
Yeah.
He said, get everybody ready. I want the rebellion over there. It's guys in the South. We're going to be at war.
Yeah.
From the day first mentioned.
But they already were at war.
It's going to get worse.
Yeah.
Order and designate as the states and parts of states wherein the people thereof respectively are this day in rebellion against the United States, the following to wit. The bad guys coming up. You want to hear the name of the bad guys?
Yep. Arkansas.
Here are the bad guys that were mentioned in the
Louisiana.
These are the bad guys mentioned on January 1st, actually September 22nd, 1862, but actually implemented as a proclamation with legal status. These are the bad guys who were rebelling against the Union, against President Lincoln. Number 1, Arkansas, pretty good football team. Texas, oh man, Texas was on the wrong side of this. God. Louisiana, except the parishes of St. Bernard, Plaquemine, Jefferson, St. Jean, St. Charles, St. James Ascension, Assumption, Terrebonne, Lafourche, St. Marie, St. Martin, a lot of French stuff here, and Orleans, including the city of New Orleans, because we love the quarter. Mississippi, Alabama, Florida. It sounds like the SEC. Is what it sounds like. Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia, except the 48 counties designated as West Virginia, and also the counties of Berkeley, Accomack, Northampton, Elizabeth City, York, Princess Anne, Norfolk, including the cities of Norfolk and Portsmouth, and which exceeded parts are for the present left precisely as if this proclamation were not issued. Imagine all the deals that were cut behind the scenes to get your name in or out of the bad guy list.
Right.
Yeah.
What does that strike you, that bad guy list?
What does it strike me?
How does it strike you?
What do you mean?
That's a question to you. When you see those names and hear that, and portions over here that are exempted out.
He was trying to split in the South some definite key areas to put them at odds with each other to cause dissension in the South also, is also that they're...
Well, also there were northern armies in the South who were in control of certain areas.
Certain areas. And that is where the proclamation had
So he cut out wherever the North had...
Their troops, yeah.
Their troops
or
and their
control that land
or control that
in a
real
state.
estate.
Yeah.
That's exempted because that belongs to the North.
Yep. So let's look at, in Louisiana, there was huge sections. And Louisiana had its own government at the time. And but the Union Army had taken control of, say, half of Louisiana. So this proclamation says Louisiana's in rebellion, except for these parts that we're controlling. And now, because of the impact of the proclamation, those areas that were under control allowed slaves on this day to be free. They were not free before this day. And now he continues, and by virtue of the power, and for the purpose aforesaid, I do order and declare that all persons held as slaves, this is Abraham Lincoln speaking, within the said designated states and parts of states are, this is pretty powerful stuff, and henceforward shall be free. I'm going to read that again. That's pretty cool sentence. And by virtue of the power and for the purpose aforesaid, I do order and declare that all persons held as slaves within any said designated states and parts of states are and henceforward shall be free. Can you imagine? You know, you've read this in September. You've heard about it. You're going, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. On January 1st, it happens.
And the other thing too, I mean, if you look about it, you think about this from a slave. You're a slave, and you're hearing about this, and you're going, but the plantation I'm living on is actually not that bad. Okay, I mean, I've grown up in the system. I've been kind of going along with it, and I've been doing what I've been told, you know, and things have been coming my way.
I've been here for 50 years,
my family's been here for 50 years. I mean, this had to send a shockwave of terror in the slaves,
Where am I going, man?
I mean, all of a sudden I have to be responsible for everything I do?
Yeah.
I have to, oh my God, I mean, the responsibility that we've thrown upon you is tremendous.
Yeah, now think about that. You've been on
You're cut loose.
You've been on a benevolent plantation for 50 years. Your grandparents, your parents, you're 22 years old.
Right.
And you go, well, you do the stymie thing, guys.
I gotta go get a job now?
Or you go, I have freedom. Then you go, what does that mean? I gotta now go someplace. Where am I gonna go? What am I gonna do?
I mean, the white people hate me. Okay, you know.
Yeah, there's still racism all over the place. You know, I wonder if landowner, I want the masters buying into this stuff. You know, this gig ain't too bad here. And there was a lot of thinking like that,
right.
Of course. But then there were the other ones that said, this is tremendous. I'm out of here. This is fabulous. Where are you going? I don't care where I'm going.
Well, you think about it, I'm definitely bailing out of the South. I got to head up north.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. And and there was the whole line just came running up north up to Chicago was one of the places. But the problem is once they left the plantation without any resources or skilled, now they're coming into a society which is completely dependent upon skills and complete knowledge, and which they don't have. They haven't been schooled.
Which is at war.
And which is at war. Now all of a sudden you're a slave who's been freed, and you're up north, and you have no skills, you have no education, you don't have anything. And
there was no job training program.
So now to go from that mentality into the workforce, it's, I mean, the difficulty in that.
It had to be phenomenally
difficult. When the Hebrews left Egypt, they had to wander around the desert for 40 years because they weren't ready to handle freedom.
But then you have now you have the Democrat Party who comes up there and says, "Hey guys, we're your friends. Okay, we're going to take care of you. We're going to help you out," and they don't help them out. All they do is enslave them again under another system, where it continues on, where now, instead of being subservient to a master on a plantation, now they're subservient to a master.
You're talking about now, right now?
No, even back then, throughout the years. I mean, that's how I mean, a lot of the slaves from the South ran right up to Chicago, and that's where the Chicago machine started being developed.
Yeah.
Sign your X here and vote for this guy.
Sign your X here. We'll take
your bag of food.
And here's your bag of food.
Stuff,
here's your thing. And your bag.
Vote. You're a vote. Now.
You're one of us
not yet.
Now.
They can't vote yet. They can't.
No.
Vote yet.
But what I'm saying is, but eventually, hey, here, Toby. Here's your bag of food.
Yeah.
And you just be the good little black person, and you vote the way we want you to vote.
Yeah.
And now you've just traded one master for another master.
You've got to watch Roots again. All right, now listen to this next part of that sentence, because that is a powerful declaration, proclamation of an amazing president at a unique time. And it ended with, and henceforth shall be free, semicolon, and that the executive government of the United States, including the military and naval authorities thereof, will recognize and maintain the freedom of said persons.
Right.
So not only are you free, but we are going to protect you. You have the protection of the United States government and military to keep you safe. And I hereby enjoin upon the people so declared to be free to abstain from all violence. Hey, guys, we know you're angry, okay? I'm making you free. Don't screw this up. Don't start getting crazy. I hereby enjoin upon the people so declared to be free to abstain from violence unless in necessary self-defense. And I recommend to them that he's talking...
Oh, wait a minute. You can defend yourself?
See?
Yeah.
President Lincoln is talking directly to the freed slaves, the freedman. And I recommend to them that in all cases when allowed, they labor faithfully for reasonable wages. So go to work, go find a job. And I further declare and make known that such persons of suitable condition will be received into the armed service of the United States to garrison forts, positions, stations, and other places, and to man vessels of all sorts in said service.
And that didn't happen overnight either. There was a long transition to integrate black forces into the military.
Well, two different things. They were welcome into the military, which a lot of them probably said, I'll do it. It's a place to go. But they were segregated within the military up until, including World War II.
Well,
how does that happen?
Until Eisenhower desegregated.
How many years later? 60, 40, 80 years. By the way.
Yeah.
80 years of segregation.
But he didn't desegregate the Army.
Another 100 years, really.
When he was a general in the Army.
And I further declare and make known, President Lincoln speaking on January 1, 1863, sesquicentennial plus 2. Sesquicentennial plus 2, 150 plus 2 today. And I further declare and make known that such persons, I already said that one, and upon this act, sincerely believed to be an act of justice, warranted by the Constitution upon military necessity, I invoke the considerable judgment of mankind and the gracious favor of Almighty God. In witness whereof, I have hereon set my hand and caused the seal of the United States to be affixed. Done at the city of Washington, first day of January, in the year of our Lord, 108 and 63, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 87th. Oh, that's interesting how they did that. The 87th year since the independence of the United States, but in the year 1863. They signed it two different ways. Pretty interesting.
It's amazing that they got the 13th Amendment passed in 1864. Just a few years later. I mean, it truly was It really was.
So they let now, what was the immediate ramification of the Emancipation Proclamation? I think it was like between 20 and 50,000 former slaves in regions where the rebellion had been subdued, right? So they couldn't, there was no legal precedent to let them go. The Union had gone into those areas within those states, subdued the rebellion, captured basically the Confederate troops. Slaves were there, but they couldn't do anything with the slaves. until the Proclamation, January 1st, 1863. On that day, it's estimated between 20 and 50,000 former slaves in those rebellious areas were immediately emancipated. Where do all of them go? What do they do? Probably a bunch of them said, my guess, so we can look into this, I'm free, and the plantation owner said, yes, you're free to go, or you're free to stay too.
Right.
What do you want to do?
Yeah.
You know, well, you're gonna raise my pay, master.
Well, no, we're in the middle of a war here, and I can't sell the cotton, so no.
Well, you know, can I live here? Yeah, but you have to pay me rent. You know, yeah. I'm sure from some of the stories we've all read that many of these situations they were part of the family, and they were staff in a sense. It wasn't slavery anymore in the sense that it was slavery in the sense that you couldn't just go if you wanted to go. But there was deep relationships. Probably many stayed, but a bunch went to their relatives up north. That's what happened. Their relatives said, "Come on up." Anybody know how they got up there and what took place? Those first couple of months after they all were released. 888-565-1470.
My wife up in she always looked for the Underground Railroad.
The Underground Railroads, yeah.
I mean, we actually thought it was actually a railroad. I remember as a young kid, we lived on border state. We kept looking for the railroad underneath the ground.
That is so cute.
No, it was. Where's the tunnel? Where's the railroad?
It's important to note that the Emancipation Proclamation did not pay the plantation owners, because the slaves obviously were property, and if Billy Bob wanted to sell Toby, you have a good where'd you get that Toby slave name from? Roots, right?
Roots,
yeah. If Billy Bob wanted to sell Toby to Billy Joe, there was an exchange of money. Well, now Lincoln screws all that up. He says, you're free. And the plantation guy's going, well, Lincoln, you going to pay me for this guy, or what's the deal? You let him go. He's working. How am I going to do my business? No money. The federal government said no money. That's strange. This federal government was like, okay, we'll pay, we'll do everything. They did not compensate the owners.
Actually, this federal government wants to compensate the descendants of the slaves who were freed for the fact that they had been slaves.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, reparations. It did not outlaw slavery, very important to understand. Emancipation did not outlaw slavery. It did not make the ex-slaves, the guys called freedmen, citizens. All it did was the eradication of slavery. It made it an explicit war goal in addition to a goal of uniting the Union. Whew, man.
How many?
Huge.
All right, trivia question. How many blacks actually served in the Union during the Civil War?
How many blacks? I'd say 50,000.
What do you think, CJ?
I don't know.
180,000. It was 10%.
180,000. I did not know.
That's what I'm trying to say. Is this was not only a freedom of the slaves issue. This is actually
recruiting. This is a recruiting campaign.
The Civil War had already been going on. They said, "Oh my God, we got to gear up." These troops, and actually 10% of the whole Union Army was serving. Was blacks in the Union Army.
Yeah, but not as combat.
A lot of them were combat, yes.
Yeah, a lot of them were in combat. But when you say serving, I'm thinking you're meaning something different. And really what they were doing was truly serving, because they were the cooks and the laundrymen and everything else. They weren't soldiers. Yeah, they weren't soldiers. The way I thought that's what you were. No. I didn't say there weren't any, but I thought that's what you were meaning is how many, and of course that changed over time before and after January 1st, 1963.
1863. 40,000 black soldiers died over the course of the war. 30,000 of the 40,000, 75% of them died of infection and disease. And a lot of the troops that are put into battle during the Civil War for the North were actually used as cannon fodder, meaning they would run at the cannons and catch bullets coming out of the cannon. So then the white troops would come up behind and take over the position. So there's time to reload cannons and everything like that. That's what they were mainly used for.
Well, let me finish the timeline here, which is very interesting. So we have September 22nd. These are key dates. For our history lesson here on TrentoVision.tv and WNN 1470, we hope you're enjoying the march through the Civil War history of slavery and the Emancipation Proclamation. We have September 22, 1862. Abraham Lincoln says, I'm going to do this, guys. He waves a piece of paper. 100 days later, he gave the 35 states 100 days to say, we're going to be in rebellion, or we're going to be with you, Abe, for you, or agin you. January 1, sesquicentennial plus 2, January 1, 1863. He proclaims the emancipation. It becomes law through a commander-in-chief move, a executive order, if you will. He even restates it at the end. He goes, based upon all these things, this thing really is a real law. He does that. Immediately, between 20 and 50,000 slaves are free. They go someplace. It's now January 1863. In April of 1864, a year and a few months, the 13th Amendment banning, outlawing slavery was passed by the Senate April of 1864. So a year after the proclamation, we're still in the Civil War. The Civil War doesn't end for another year. It ends in the summertime, May or so, of 1865. So in April of 1864, a year before the Civil War ends, the 13th Amendment is passed by the Senate. It's adopted by the House on January 1865. So it takes almost another year for the House to pass it. Can you imagine the battle in Congress over the 13th Amendment? It took so long to get from the Senate, April 8th, 1864, to be passed in the House, January 31st, 1865, almost a year later. And, there were not 435 people at that time. It's probably 100 people. Can you imagine? What do you think the battle was like?
And also, the whole point, then you had the assassination of Lincoln after in that whole process. And
that was on what day? That was
December 18th, 1865.
December?
No, April 1865. It was when assassination.
So he is assassinated soon after the House passes the 13th Amendment, January 31st, 1865.
Right.
So he never saw the 13th Amendment to implement it, to become an amendment to the Constitution, because it doesn't become an amendment to the Constitution
December 6th,
until December 6th, 1865. So Lincoln died before he saw that materialize.
And this was a constitution for an ununified country.
It's right
United
now
this
States.
constitution. What is the United States at this point?
And in the middle of all this, you have Andrew Johnson. This is actually pretty fascinating. Who got impeached because he was thought to be so pro-rightist that he was going to come down there and just completely side with coming down and punishing the South for all the war crimes. And he actually flipped. He actually did a 180 and says, no. I'm going to be more, caring for the South, and it caused his impeachment. It caused his whole impeachment of in the House. And so this whole thing was such in chaos.
There's so much congressional chaos that isn't funny. And now we're arguing about significant stuff today. I mean, the fiscal cliff and all of that. But this was life and death in the middle of a war. All this was going on, and the American legislators have to maintain their sensibility and morality. And now here's the 13th Amendment. I'm going to read it. It'll take about 20 minutes to read because it's like 5 words. Listen to this. This is the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution, December 6th, 1865. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Now, there's a little exception they threw in there, but I want to read the essence of it. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Pretty simple, man. A few words. Now, I'll read it in its entirety. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted. So they made an exception. You can be still a slave if you commit a crime. You'll be a slave to the government this time. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction.
What does the except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted? What does that mean?
Well, if you are convicted of something, the government still has the authority to enslave you, to put you to work as a slave for the government.
The Democrat Party.
Like a chain gang.
The Democrat Party, right.
The chain gang. So, here's the funny part. 100 years later, 1965, Martin Luther King is still fighting for the rights of black Americans. There was still segregation. Well,
that's the difference. I mean, there's, what we're talking about in the 1800s, those are issues of civil liberties. What Martin Luther King was doing was civil rights, which is different.
Yeah, but it shows that, it shows a couple things. What are the lessons? We got a couple of minutes left here. What are the lessons in our American history class, civics, 201. We're at 201, Civil War. One of the lessons I see here is that as much abuse as the Constitution takes nowadays, I mean, it held its own through these very chaotic times, and the framers built it in such a way so that it could be amended, knowing it's not a perfect document. And this amendment was critical to it. You can write anything you want on a piece of paper. To change the hearts and minds of people takes time.
Right.
And this country sadly has taken a turn backwards with this president toward a more racist view. He's done more to harm race relations than to heal them, and that we need to talk about too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, he's put a slick new face on racism, and the slick new face is if you say anything against me, you're a racist. But I come with you with a smile and a twinkle in my eye, and to make you feel guilty. And then if you come back and you say anything against me, you're a racist. And anybody who decides to leave the Copperhead Party of today is going to be labeled as a racist, as a Uncle Tom, as someone who's stupid.
Alan West.
As any black man, and I'll say this across the board, undeniably, any black man who is not a Democrat
or woman
or Copperhead, or a woman, any black man or woman,
Condoleezza
Rice.
A woman.
I mean, you are a racist.
Yep.
You hate black people. Everything. It all boils down to racism if you don't agree with the modern day Copperheads.
Okay, well, here's my problem with all of it, is as a society, how did we get to be so wimpy that we're terrified about name calling? We squelch our own freedom of speech ourselves because we're afraid to be called racists, misogynists, Islamophobes, homophobes,
phobophobes, and everything else.
It's absolutely retarded.
It's
People
ridiculous.
will restrict their own freedom of movement, freedom of thought in this society because they're afraid of being labeled as something. So you don't even have to have the government ruling against you through the courts and taking away your freedom of speech because people are shutting up anyway.
Mm-hmm. What we have done, we have lost our individualism as we're growing up with during the Constitution. This whole document, this whole thing, everything we're talking about today, the slavery issue was all about individualism. Do individuals have a right to determine their self-worth? Do individuals have the right to make their own manifest destiny?
Well,
no.
Yeah, manifest destiny means something different in this context.
Well, what I'm trying to say is, no, as far as their destiny is ordained by God, if you will.
Yeah.
And But the point being is we've gone so far where now we have a person who's in a university, as we talked about today earlier, who doesn't have a right to speak because the government will not allow you. We have a president, today who looks at his, and his self-worth is determined by his image, about his flair, about his smile, about, the policy that's passed in Congress today has no substantive value whatsoever. It's not about substance. It's about what your appearance is upon you, what people think about you. How do I look? It's not about your own individual self-worth or realization.
And it's important to know that the 13th Amendment needs to be considered with the 14th, Civil Rights and States, and the 15th, because though the blacks were, that slavery was abolished, ain't going to vote yet. You still got 5 years, the 15th Amendment in 1870, before you can vote. And nowadays you can vote as many times as you want in the Democrat Party.
Because it's racist to have voter ID laws.
This was good. This was a good time. I learned a lot. I hope you did. What about you? You learned anything? All right. You learned something? Yeah. We all learned something. We're teaching you something. We're having a wonderful time here. Kenny, take us out of here, man.
Take us away.
Thanks for